let's say they just keep their personal space looking like this and they don't adhere to your warnings or anything like that. What do you do?
You turn the whole house into bedrooms and you rent by the room. Anything like that is going to be, successful.
Number one, the one we're talking about today is what, Kim?
Senior housing.
Traditional real estate investing is dead. Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy think this is the solution.
The number one investment in real estate.
Be sure to watch until the end to uncover just how lucrative this housing solution can be.
So the difference between owning regular residential rentals and group homes is that with a group home, you've got a house manager that lives in a property that is in control of everything that you're talking to on a daily basis. You also have, if you've got, 10, 15 of these things, you've got somebody overseeing all of those individuals that are running your group homes. With regular rentals, the reality is if the money's coming in, I'm kind of, not really going to think about it. Now, oftentimes what I do is I have my assistant say, hey, are you changing the filter? But that's really about it. And we make them, text us a photo of it. But we should probably start making them text it, hey, you're going to be required to text us photos and videos of the inside of the properties on a monthly basis. But I've never implemented that. I need to, but I never have. Again, though, with your group homes, you're in there every single day. Guess who else is in there every single day? We talked about this on the webinar the other day. All of your nurses, all of your caseworkers, all of your social workers, because they're coming over every day or every 3 days or every 5 days to perform checks on a lot of your clients. So you're getting a lot more feedback. So it's a more operationally intensive business, but on the flip side of the coin, you know what's going on in the house and you're also getting paid for it. You're making a lot more money than you would. Now this property is free and clear, but I'm just making basically no money on this property. And funny enough, if you just do quick math on it, let's assume that I made, for sake of argument, over a 2-year period, I made $10,000. That's before insurance and before taxes. Okay. And let's assume that my taxes on that property were $3,000. Let's assume that my insurance was $1,000 over a 2-year period. So I'm left with $6,000. So the whole time I thought that I was cash flowing, but guess what? Now I have my tenant turnover and I'll spend easy $15,000 fixing up the property.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's rough. I feel lucky that I haven't had any. I mean, I've had some bad ones, but no major horror stories. And a lot of it has to do with kids being in there. I will say that is one of the enlightening and best things about the group home is that if I'm just driving by the place at 3:00 some afternoon and I feel like stopping in, I just go in.
Correct.
I don't have to knock. I don't have to give anybody 24 hours notice. I can go in and sit down and watch TV with them for 15 minutes.
Yes.
And then say, hey guys, see you later. and just get to see it. So it's like, in effect, it's still my house. When you rent and do a traditional lease, the laws are basically saying that's their space.
Yes.
From you.
Matt, you're spot on. There's a sense of control with owning group homes, and you walk in there like the boss, if that makes sense. And to your point, Matt, you just open up the door. And 9 times out of 10, because it's a group home, there's 4 people, 8 people, 10 people, 16 people living in the property, the door's open. So you just walk right on in, and everybody, again, I don't want this to come across negatively, but everybody is extremely respectful because they know, hey, there's the boss man. There's Matt right there. There's Matt. He's the boss man. Oh, let me make sure that the dishes are done, because they all have house chores. The property needs to be clean, needs to be tidy. You just can't do that on a regular rental property. The other thing that's different with a regular rental property is that not only does the law, as Matt just said, the law tells you this is the property of the tenant now, but those tenants, they know that, right? Versus in this business, in the group home business, it's like you're running a hotel, basically. So you have the ability to go into that property. Now, if somebody wants to lock their room, that's a different story. But getting into the property itself, you just walk right on in.
Yep, it's a beautiful thing, and it made me feel from the very beginning. Once I realized that that's the way that it was going to be, I was way more comfortable with this. I can go in if something's broken down, I can just send somebody over. You know, the guys needed a new stove last month, and I just said, "Well, here's the we have." I put those digital locks on all the doors in the group homes, and I have a one-time use code, so I can just set the code and then give it to the guy who's dropping off the new stove and removing the other one, and they can just go in. We don't have to set up a time. We don't have to. It's not hard at all. I just say whenever you're ready, go on in, change the stove out. I'll tell the guys
You just touch on a key point, I think, Matt. A lot of investors out there, especially if they've been through stuff like this that Andy's dealt with, they're imagining, not just one person that's going to keep the property up like this, but it could be possibly 10, right? They're imagining all the stuff you have to do to get into the property, right? So you have to schedule ahead of time. Sometimes all right, they're not home when they're supposed to. You can't go in. We have what we call the licensee agreement. And guys, what this is really just the house rules that's in legalese. So Matt, Andy, they're not leasing the property to all of these people. Matt doesn't have, 10 leases on each one property. You're simply licensing space. And with that, you have way more authority, like Andy said, and just way more control over the property. And yeah, you can, like they said, you could just walk in. You can have a house supervisor that's basically your tattletale that's in the properties. You can have cameras. Matt, do you have cameras in the homes or anything?
don't
like
have
that?
cameras yet, though. In talking to Eric, your coach Eric, he gave me a list. I said, "Look, I've got a home for 19 people coming up. I don't know what I don't know. Can you recommend anything to me?" And he gave me this nice little list of, okay, with 19 people, here's all the things that you need to watch out for. So cameras were one of the things he recommended. So I'm going to be going with that.
Yeah. So again, just one of the many advantages. You have way more control over the property. As long as you're not being a slumlord and you are, managing these things, or you have or like Eric, you have systems in place to where basically everything's automated. Eric is a beast, by the way. You don't have these issues. Andy, at the group homes, if there is somebody that, let's say they just keep their personal space looking like this, and they don't adhere to your warnings or anything like that, what do you do?
You just throw them out. I mean, you're gone.
The eviction,
By the way, when I say you're gone, like you're gone.
not the
We don't have to
6 month
file for
eviction.
eviction. There's none of that riffraff. Literally pick their stuff up, throw it outside. You're gone.
Sorry, I cut you off a little bit, Andy, but I was saying not the typical 6 to 12 month eviction process.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so it says right here. And it's up to you how hard of a line you want to draw this, right? But if they're signing when they check in to the home, if they violate these rules, get in the boot.
Yeah, you're getting the book. And Brandon, to your point, if I can make a quick comment on that, it is up to you as the operator how you want to deal with it. And I'll be fully transparent. We've had plenty of people that pay like clockwork and they're super duper duper messy, and we let them slide. That is the reality. Now, we let them slide until it starts impacting the remainder of the property and starts migrating over to other people, right? Because one bad apple will spoil the whole bunch. But, if we have somebody that's paying, because we do sometimes, hey, it's a $575 room rental, or we're not charging that cheap anymore, but $675 room rental, or not room rental, but bed rental. But we've got somebody with some special circumstances and we know they're going to be a little bit more of an issue. Yeah, it's $975, but they've got a rep payee and they're paying it like clockwork. The room's a mess. We let them stay.
Yeah, as long as it's not disrupting the home, sometimes that seems okay. And that is actually another interesting thing about going back to when Brandon, you were saying that the mess that you see in those pictures, you think that that's 8 times what it could be. But, if somebody leaves like their dishes in the sink from dinner, I'll get 4 text messages from the other people in the house.
Right.
For the most part, especially if you're interviewing well, for the most part, they're watching out for each other. I've got one guy that's saying to, another guy that's in the house that keeps it being messy. He's like, man, if you want to keep staying here, you got to keep that clean. If Matt comes in and sees this, man, you're going to be gone. You got to take care of this. And he's not my house manager. It's just an example of the people talking to each other and talking them through this process of living in a group situation.
Let me throw something else out, Brandon, at you, and also you, Matt, that I don't think I've really ever mentioned before, but this is so freaking true. If you can manage this business, and again, it's not that difficult to manage, but if you can manage, not really one group home because it's pretty easy to do, but if you get to the point where you're managing and overseeing 10 or 15 group homes, you can do anything. Because you're dealing with human beings and you're dealing with individuals and you're dealing with personalities, and you are going to get so good at reading people, so good at building teams, so good. You're building teams, building families when you put 4 people, 8 people, 15 people into a house and you start understanding, how's this person think? How's he going to relate, or how is she going to relate to this woman, or what have you? You're going to turn into a just amazing business person. So that is the other thing I like to throw out. You're building a lot of skills.
Want to learn more about the future real estate? Sign up for your free training material at www.grouphomeriches.com.